Hello, welcome to Spread Book Joy. Today I've got a bit of a life update, so I thought I'd film in the garden because my beautiful California lilac is in full bloom and this is the last summer we'll be spending in our house. I say summer, we've got about another month in our house before we move out of London, and I thought I would film here. So I've got this recorded for posterity because it's one of my favourite things. Let's just lift this up a little bit so you can see how beautiful that is. Big purple, I think it's a Ceanothus, I don't know how you pronounce it, but I'm talking quite quietly because I'm in the garden and my neighbours can hear me and I get very shy filming outside, so I thought, but I wanted to come out here and film because it's so beautiful this evening. So yes, we are moving. We've been trying to sell our house for some time and we finally did, and it looks like it's all going through. So at the end of May, beginning of June, we'll be relocating to the countryside and leaving London. So yeah, I'm going to miss our little house and our little garden, so I thought it'd be nice to film a bit here and just sort of update you on a few things. So the last month has been really jam-packed and busy and stressful with work, with trying to sort out the house move and everything else, and because of that my own readathon took a bit of a hit in terms of my filming schedule and things that I wanted to do. So I've got my Picture This wrap up still to film, which will get filmed hopefully in the next few weeks, because I've got lots of lovely books I want to talk about. I've also got some illustrator spotlights I want to do, but I was stressing myself out about it, and I thought, why am I stressing myself out about this? It's only me putting pressure on myself because no one's out there going to worry about whether I post my Picture This wrap up or anything right now. It's not like it's like something people are waiting for. So yeah, I wanted to sort of mention I've been a bit less active on YouTube, that's why, because I've also got to try and wrap up all my in-person work in London before we go. So yeah, we're in May. First thing I suppose I should say is that this is the start of a new 2 months for FOMO book club. We'll be reading The Dance Tree by Kieran Millward Hargrave, and I'm looking forward to that. I'm probably going to try and read that in June. My neighbour's now mowing their lawn. I think I'm going to have to take this inside. Back indoors. It's a real shame. The mowing started as soon as I went outside. So yes, I was updating you on life stuff and YouTube stuff and what we're doing. So FOMO book club. We just finished filming the live for the discussion on Goodnight Mr. Tom, which was our last FOMO book club pick. If you're not aware of what the FOMO book club is, that's what we just read. It's the book club that I run with Gem from Gem of Books, lovely Gemma, and Alice from Alice and Giant Bookshelf, and we got together last year to put together a list of books that we all feel we've missed out on, books that we really want to read. So we whittled that down to a list of 6 books to read over the course of a year. We read one book every 2 months. It's very casual. I'll leave a link in the description box to all of the details from the announcement video where we announce FOMO book club, so you can see what it's about. And the book for the next 2 months, May and June, is this book, The Dance Tree by Kieran Millward Hargrave, and I'll leave a link to the video where I discuss a bit about that as well. So we're going to be reading The Dance Tree. The other things that are going on in May, well, there are quite a few. There is Misery May, which is being run by Gemma and Scott from Gunpowder Fiction and Plot, and they're running Misery May ostensibly to celebrate the work of Thomas Hardy. I'm not a Hardy fan. I'm kind of on the fence with Hardy. I hated Hardy at A-level, read Tessa Delville's, and I've put it out of my mind. It's become a traumatic event. But I picked up some Hardy last year, Far from the Madding Crowd, and loved it. This is Jude the Obscure, which is the group read, which I have on good authority is his most miserable book ever. So I've only read about 4 chapters of it so far, but I'm reading the group read for Misery May. Also, they're also just inviting you to read miserable books in general, and they've got a really good couple of videos where booktubers recommend their miserable reads. I was one of those booktubers, so I'll put a link in the description box below to those 2 videos, so you can get some lovely miserable recommendations. And as part of that, Gemma and I buddy read The Colour Purple with Jennifer Loves Books, and me and Gemma and Jennifer have read that this week. I read The Colour Purple many years ago, Pulitzer Prize winning book by Alice Walker, about the life of a young black woman in a massively abusive relationship in the South. I think it's set the early part of the 20th century. because you're never quite told exactly when it's set. You're told it from the perspective of Celie, who's writing to God and telling her sort of all her sort of thoughts and feelings to God. She's sharing what she's going through. It's very, very harsh, very horrific, abusive life that she has, but it's a great book. It's a very important book. And then we since found out, which I think Gemma found out through Kit the Reader, that Alice Walker is a TERF. Didn't know that, but read, and I really enjoyed The Colour Purple again. It's the third time I've read it in my life, and I read it when I was in my teens and in my 20s. I haven't read it since. It's been about 25 years since I read it. But yeah, it was a really, really great, and I think a very important book for the time. Delves into an awful lot of the poor black woman's experience at that time. Very tragic book. It's a very tragic book, but there are elements of sort of realisation and character development and hope within it. I'm not going to talk about it too much because it's very famous, and yeah, also it's by someone who holds some views that I don't agree with, so there we go. So I read that. That was part of Misery May. The other readathons going on in May are LM Montgomermay, which is the LM Montgomery readathon, being hosted by lovely Dia from Novel Idea and quite a lot of other people who are all hosting this month devoted to reading Ellen Montgomery, which is probably the complete opposite of reading Thomas Hardy, though Montgomery can stomp on your heart. So yeah, that's a really nice readathon. I'm hoping to be able to pick up some Ellen Montgomery, but again, May is going to be moving month for me, so these are all possibilities. The other things that are going on are two readathons that really work in tandem together really well. One is the Spoonies readathon, which is about hidden disabilities. That's being run by my good friend Emily from Novell Novels and Naomi from Naomi's Bookshelf, and they're running a readathon to promote awareness of hidden disabilities. And yeah, so the Spoonies readathon is going on at the moment, and I have got currently just started today Get a Life Chloe Brown, which by Talia Hibbert, which I've wanted to read for ages, and it's on Kindle Unlimited, so that worked out really nicely. And I know it's one of Emily's favourite series, so yeah, I'm reading Get a Life Chloe Brown. I started that today. And then we have the Mental Health May readathon, which is being hosted by Kim at Middle of the Book March and my lovely friend Marilyn Maya Mendoza, and they are hosting a mental health awareness readathon. So it's all about promoting and talking about our mental health, which is a really important thing. I watched Marilyn's video today. She talks about the fact that there is a lot of stigma still attached with mental health, which is undoubtedly true, but everybody has to work on their mental health, especially given the past couple of years with the pandemic. I don't think there's a person on the planet who hasn't been affected in some way mentally and emotionally by what's gone on. So I think it's really important to bring awareness and to get people talking, which is the most important thing. And I sort of said to Marilyn today, I was like, yeah, gosh, I think you're right. There is still a lot of stigma attached to talking about mental health, to the point where I don't really talk about my mental health openly or enough. But then I'm also quite a private person, so regardless of whether it's my mental health or my physical health, I don't really talk about things that much on here. But yeah, anxiety is something that I struggle with and have worked on for years. And I know everybody people who don't have anxiety disorders don't understand what that's like, but it can be really crippling and life-changing. So, and it has been for me at points in my life. So yeah, I think it's a really valuable readathon, and you only have to read one book related to mental health. They've got a number of prompts, one-word prompts that you can use. Emily and Naomi, for their Spoonies readathon, have also got a number of prompts for Spoonies, and one of them is a self-care prompt, which I think is really important, and thinking about self-care and how you take care of yourself. And Charlie over at Charlie Book Reads, she today was just talking about how she loves Lush products to support herself with her well-being, and that's one of my go-to things, like the bubble bath. That basically, it's like aromas. I've always got some sort of essential oil going. I like a bath with particular smells like lavender, etc, and I've got a like face scrub that I use, and these things I find really comforting and calming. So yeah, I think it's really important for us to take care of ourselves, whether you've got a hidden disability, you've got a mental health problem that you're dealing with. And I think to say you've got a mental health problem, everyone has to look after their mental health. Every single person is something that absolutely everybody can be affected by. So this readathon is starting conversation. So for that, I did get a free download of a book called The Natural Health Service, which is all about the benefit of nature to your mental health and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to listening to that. That was a free download from World Book Night. There were a couple of really good books that would have fit in for the Mental Health May, for mental health awareness, like for this Mental Health May readathon for World Book Night. And yeah, so that I decided I'd pick that one because it's about how to take care of your mental health through the natural world and nature and stuff like that. Other than that, I've got a buddy read ongoing at the moment with a lovely Dia from Novel Idea. We are reading The River of Silver by S.A. Chakraborty. It is a short story collection set in the world of the Daevabad trilogy, which was phenomenal trilogy of books, fantasy books. We loved it so much and we're glad to be back in this world. So the stories within River of Silver are set, they're stories from different characters' perspectives. They're set either before or during or after the trilogy of books. So yeah, they're really nice to listen to. At the moment we haven't had anything sort of earth-shattering from them, but it's just nice to be back in that world, and her writing is really good. I like the characters. So yeah, we're enjoying that. As far as other books we finished, I did a buddy read with Sandy from Miss Reads a Lot, Dia and Gemma, and we basically read Kate Elliott's The Keeper 6, which is a very short novella, science fiction / fantasy. I think the premise was really exciting. It's kind of about like a how to describe it, like a group, almost like a coven of magic wielders, where interstellar travel is between these gates, and these sort of groups of magic wielders called a hex. There's 6 of them and they each have a particular role within the group. They travel between these sort of gates, and yeah, there was this whole massively complex world building going on, but I thought the premise initially was really good, but just too much going on for a novella, and the characters were really flat, and I was just very disappointed in the book. We were all disappointed in the book actually, so we were quite glad it was quite short. It's a really shame because we've tried a buddy read in another book and it wasn't great for us. It was Tigana, so we're going to keep searching out like a nice book for us to read. The initial startup for that book is to read fantasy and science fiction and fantasy and stuff, so we're going to keep an eye out for something. We kind of don't want to get into a big series together. Dia and I then went on after reading Tigana and read the Daevabad trilogy, which we had planned on doing together, but I think it's a bit of much of an ask to ask this group of people who are really busy readers to read something like that. So if anyone's got any recommendations for one-off standalone fiction, science fiction or fantasy, particularly fantasy, that you would recommend, please drop it in the comments below, and if we haven't read it, we'll give it a go, add it to the list. I also read 4,000 Weeks, Time Management for Mortals by Oliver Berkman. I've seen this in bookshops so much, and it's a kind of response to the productivity obsession that people have, and I am a productivity obsessive person about time management and everything else. But this is called Time Management for Mortals because 4,000 weeks is roughly the amount of time you've got on the planet. If you're lucky enough to live till you're 80, you'll have 4,000 weeks on the planet, and when you kind of put it in those terms, it suddenly becomes like quite existential about how finite our time is on the planet and what we choose to do with it. So it's approaching this idea of time management and thinking about time and the way we think about time and the way we can modify time in a really interesting way. And I really enjoyed this book because I am someone who I need like a schedule. I'm very much someone who manages their time. I'm very busy with lots of things on the go, and I like to be productive in my downtime and stuff like that, but I also like to have rest time because self-care, mental health, but this book is all about he's kind of researched philosophy and people and all the sort of papers he can find on time management and productivity and everything else. And as a self-confessed productivity addict that he was, he's now looking at time trying to look at time in a different way, and thinking about how we in modern times have come to commodify our time so much, and then the effect of the pandemic on the way we see time and how the way we perceive time. Really interesting, quite frightening initially as well, but a very, very fascinating subject, and one that affects everybody. Time is the most precious resource we have, so make sure you spend it wisely was the takeaway from that book, which is not anything revolutionary, but it was interesting to contemplate. Then, as part of Trans Girl April, I read this, Akwaeke Emezi's You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty. Our buddy read it with Gemma from Gemma Books, and we really enjoyed it, which we were both very apprehensive going in, not because it's Emezi, because we kind of felt we were in safe hands with Emezi, but at the same time, it's a romance book. Yes, that's right, Akwaeke Emezi wrote a romance book. They are not generally known for writing romance, and they did every kind of hot girl romance trope in this, and it's very steamy, but they did it so well, and there is a level of depth to it because this book discusses grief and trauma and anxiety and casual sex and consent and coercive control and all sorts of really deep things for us to ponder and for me and Gemma to discuss. So we really, really enjoyed this book, and if you like romance, I think you'll enjoy it. Just be warned that it has got a lot of very steamy raw sex scenes in it, we really enjoyed it. I think it was kind of like your romance book but with a bit extra. I think I read in Goodreads a lot of people were upset by the outcome in the book because it was quite unconventional, but didn't bother me. I thought it was fine. I kind of was rooting for the characters and cared about her, and they were one of the best sort of descriptions of anxiety, which I'm going to read to you right now, that I've read in a long time, and it kind of summed up like that social anxiety that you can get, and so I'm just going to read it to you. She knew it was important to recognise old faces at the moment the anxiety became louder than a background hum, when it jumped in front of your face, and instead of seeing the people you cared about, all you could see was the thrumming noise, the fear, the voice seizing everything around you to confirm that you weren't wanted, that you were the problem. This wasn't something she could expect a limb to hold. He had enough of his own, and this was hers, her monster to fight and slay and skin, dry it in the sun, hang it on her wall as a reminder that she was more than what the voices in her head tried to tell her. I just thought that was a really excellent sort of description of how anxiety feels, that you feel that you're worthless, that everyone around you thinks you are, that you're not worthy of being in the room or in the conversation, and that you are not good enough, and that your inner voice tells you these things continually. So yeah, that's all I read and what I've got coming up. Oh, the other thing, I completely forgot, May of the Moderns. May of the Moderns is being hosted. There's so many readathons at the moment, which is hosted by the lovely Margaret Pennard, and it is about reading the classics from the early part of the 20th century, I think up until 1950, I believe. I'll put it all in the description box below, links to all these things so you can check them out. But if you like literature from the early part of the 20th century, then go and check out Margaret Pennard's readathon. I've got a few things I wouldn't mind reading for that, if I get time to. So my possibilities, I recently also picked up some books in the little free library near me. So I didn't buy them, just saw them and I couldn't resist. One of them is Evelyn Waugh's Brideshead Revisited, which I'm pretty sure would be acceptable for May of the Moderns. I also picked up a copy of Elodie Harper's The Wolf Den because I definitely want a copy of that. I want to reread that at some point. And then I found a copy of Margaret Atwood's Mad Adam. So I do like a bit of Margaret Atwood. It's been a long time since I've read any of her books, and I've got a couple on my TBR, and I've heard this is very, very good. So are you taking part in any of these amazing readathons? Let me know. I know there's a few others going on, but just time and everything else. These are all possibilities for me anyway. I hope everyone's doing well. I hope I can keep up with posting videos whilst I'm starting to pack up my house and move my life a few hundred miles away. And just drop me an emoji in the comments if you're still here. Like it if you want to like it, and if you'd like to subscribe, please do. Not sure why you would. this rambling nonsense, and hopefully I will see you again here soon. Bye.